This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. 4 accused goat thieves nabbed in St. Elizabeth. The St. Elizabeth police have charged 4 men with a predial larceny after 8 goats were stolen in 2 communities. Charged with offenses of larceny and receiving stolen property are 24-year-old Kenroy Davis, a farmer of Knoxwood District in St. Elizabeth, 28-year-old Anthony Esson, a resident of Parity in St. Elizabeth, 32-year-old farmer Dwayne Clark, and 19-year-old Devontae Clark, both of Octombeddy in Manchester. Head of the St. Elizabeth Police, Dwight Daly, said the goats valued $255,000 were stolen from 2 farmers in Pedro Plains and Greenfield District between 5:30 p.m. on Sunday and 4 a.m. on Monday. 5 of the goats were stolen from Pedro Plains and 3 from Greenfield. The police said during an operation about 5:30 a.m. on Monday, the stolen goats were recovered at a premises in Parity and later identified by their owners. The 4 men are scheduled to appear in the St. Elizabeth Parish Court in Black River on May 11. Manchester man killed after sharing Sunday dinner with his cousins. A Manchester family has been plunged into grief following Sunday's murder of 28-year-old Kemarley Bryan at a Beverly District in the parish. Bryan had just shared his Sunday dinner with 2 of his relatives when a gunman shot him in his face. A report from the police's Constabulary Communications Unit said about 7:25 p.m. Bryan was at his sister's shop when a gunman entered, ordered an item, and exited. The police said shortly after explosions were heard and Bryan was seen suffering from a gunshot wound. He was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. A relative who asked not to be named felt strongly that Bryan's killing was in relation to an argument at a party in the neighboring community of Evergreen. Him did have an argument with a guy in Evergreen on Saturday night at a dance, the relative said. Bryan was reportedly performing stunts with his car when the man is said to have threatened to kill him. Him always a bust him little freestyle pan the car, and while he was doing that, the people them there like it, so them a boost him, and I said too short, so him do more, the relative said. The following day, Bryan was enjoying his Sunday evening with his relatives when his killer posed as a customer and ordered a cigarette in the bar. Him there a DJ and a go on with him little unique style. Him go St. Elizabeth and come back. Him ask for him dinner and sit down across the road pan a wall and a talk to him cousins, the relative said. Everybody they cross the road when this man pass and go in the bar. Him order a cigarette, added the relative. The gunman reportedly asked Bryan and his relatives where a party was being held. The relative said just as everyone answered the gunman's question to say they were not aware of an event in the area, Bryan was shot. Mr. when him collapsed on him face, me run out there and grab him up and turn him over, and a bit of blood me see a come through his mouth and nose, the relative said. Counsel for the Mile Gully Division, Rohan Kennedy, condemned the murder, saying nowhere in Jamaica is safe anymore. Mile Gully is a quiet area. What is happening now is not unique to here. It is a national thing, he said. I don't think anywhere in Jamaica now we can say it is safe from criminal activity. It is a national crime and we need a unified approach to solve this crime problem because it really is getting out of control, he added. He mentioned the statements made by 2 former ministers of national security in describing the country's crime situation. One minister did say divine intervention, one say obia, but me think it's going to take all of that plus more, said Kennedy. Residents hand over firearm found in Crossroads. The Crossroads police have launched an investigation into circumstances which led to the recovery of a firearm on Retirement Road in Crossroads. According to the Constabulary's Communication Unit, a police team was on mobile patrol in the area about 3:15 p.m. on Monday when they were informed that residents found a firearm. On their arrival, a black Glock 19 semi-automatic pistol and a magazine was handed over to them. Lawyer wants the law to protect against discrimination based on health. Attorney at law Kadria Folks, who specializes in employment law, believes that there is need for changes to the legislation that gives protection to a worker against discrimination based on health status at the workplace. In an interview with the news, Folks explained that in the National Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, protected attributes do not include health status. This means, according to Folks, the legislation does not protect a person from workplace discrimination if they, for example, are hypertensive, diabetic, or even overweight. There are no anti-discrimination legislation, and in the Charter of Rights, it doesn't protect you against discrimination based on your weight or other health issues. There are other attributes, but weight is not one of them, but it's not a basis for termination. So if you were to be terminated on that basis, then that would have been unjustifiable dismissal, Folks stated. She added, under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, when it lists the attributes, for instance, it says age, gender, and nationality. One of the attributes that is listed says health status, but our Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms does not have that, and that would help so many people. Now, if you had an attribute protected in the law called health status, then that will help. You don't have to go as far as to say fat, because there are still people who would say they want a protection too. So that is something we could advocate for. At the same time, Folks explained that the only way an employer can exclude a person from employment because of a particular attribute is if not having that attribute is a genuine occupational requirement. For instance, an air hostess, the plane with weight and all of that, how much cargo they are carrying, they might have weight requirements legitimately because the occupation requires that. If you own a store that sells male and female clothing, you wouldn't want a male to be the dressing room attendant for the female's dressing room. So if you tell a male that they cannot get this job because you are a male and we really want a female, it would be discriminating, but it has a lawful basis because being a male is a genuine occupational requirement for the job, Folks told the news. Folks advised in the event that someone is experiencing discrimination at the workplace, he or she should employ a private attorney to write to the employer to advise them of their rights. The Ministry of Labor only administers the labor laws, but the course of law is not just the legislations. You have the common law. If you want to enforce a common law right, you have to get a private attorney to take private action for you. Suppose it is an attribute that is protected by the Constitution, then you will take constitutional action, and then the remedies would make an order against the employers, Folks said, adding that the Industrial Disputes Tribunal is the only entity with authority to reinstate employment in the event of termination. Chang wants legislation to address number of guns individuals can own. Minister of National Security Dr. Harris Chang says that the issue of how many guns a single licensed firearm holder can legally own at any one time should be addressed in the regulations for the current bill. Dr. Chang was responding last Wednesday to a question raised by Joint Select Committee government member Senator Charles Sinclair about recent newspaper articles naming well-known persons who had several licensed guns at the same time. The committee has been reviewing the Firearms Act 2022 in Parliament. Senator Sinclair noted that two prominent persons, now deceased, had been named in the press, and there are others within the country who we have heard comments about in relation to the number of firearm licenses they had required. The news had reported late February that two former government ministers who died 4 months apart in 2018 left behind a total of 14 guns, which are still in the care of the Firearms Licensing Authority, the National Firearms Control Body, awaiting disposal. The two were former People's National Party Housing Minister Easton Douglas and the former Jamaica Labour Party Minister of National Security Dwight Nelson. Chang, who thanked Senator Sinclair for raising the issue, said that although he had not read any of the articles, he has been made aware of the issue. However, he felt that it should be addressed in Parliament where it could be debated among members. It seems to be something that ought to be included in the regulations rather than the act itself going forward, he commented. Dr. Chang explained that the firearms in question were for sport shooting are very specific and can be accommodated. However, he was concerned about the number of firearms owned by one person without involvement in any special gun shooting activity. I think we should look at it, and I urge the team doing the regulations to bring this up as well and to come back with it to Parliament where we can have more discussions, he added. Senator Sinclair said that he was very interested in hearing from the policymakers as to why one person should be granted as many as 7 handgun permits when it is not necessary for any sport competition. The bill was tabled in the House of Representatives on February 10, introducing harsher penalties for offenses connected to the illicit trade, manufacture, stockpiling, possession, and the use of illegal guns. It is aimed at addressing the challenges being experienced with respect to the proliferation of illegal firearms and to increase the applicable penalties for breaches of provisions relating to prohibited weapons. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.